I am a certified relationship trauma coach out of New Jersey. I appreciate you tuning in. Tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about emotional damage. Emotional damage is something that plays a very important role in a lot of our lives in various different ways. And one of the ways that it plays a role is it plays a role in a lot of our relationships. A lot of the emotional damage that's going to take place is going to take place as a result of someone that we've trusted, someone we opened up our heart to, someone that we've allowed into our lives. And and over a period of time, this person has just hasn't been faithful with us and with our hearts. And I'm not talking about faithful as far as a relationship, because a lot of this emotional damage that's going to take place, it's going to come from people that are close and near and dear to you. That's going to come from like your parents and things like that. Is that Christina from is that Christina from Detroit? Wow, if that's you, cool. So what I'm talking about today is emotional damage. And a lot of the emotional damage, again, is as a result of events that took place and transpired within our lives. Many times many times I can see who it is, but I was just surprised that someone popped up, because I've been doing these lives the last couple of weeks. I just been recording them and posting them, and I was surprised that someone popped up on it. That's why I was like, what? That's why I was more shocked than anything. But back to my point, emotional damage, a lot of times it stems from events that transpired within our houses, events that took place with many of us when we were young. This isn't stuff that took place when we were older. A lot of times, and many times it's from the people that we should have been able to count on and trust and rely on and things like that. But because of those individuals not being in the place that they needed to be, they could only give us what they had. And I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna go over 10 things, but I'm probably only go over 3 or 4 on this video, because I'm gonna keep the video like 15, 10, 12, 15 minutes, and just kind of move on from there. But the first thing, I'm gonna give you the definition, because I like to look up definitions of things. And when you look up emotional damage, it says emotional damage often manifests as difficulty trusting. It also represents a level of numbness and negative thoughts, patterns that are stemming from past trauma. So a lot of this stuff is stemming from past events that were traumatic to us, because the trauma is what causes the damage. That traumatic event, whatever it was a divorce, whether it was an abuse, whether it was emotional abuse. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Appreciate that. Yeah. And so, like I said, I've been trying to go live every day for like 15, 20 minutes, just to post a video up there to kind of get into the habit of it. Because I'm looking to build a channel more so on YouTube than spending a lot of time on TikTok. But my thought is, so back to my point, when you look at trusting, when you look at the definition represents the emotional damage is often manifest as difficulties trusting. When we have a lot of issues trusting, and this is when I give it definitions, or when I give statements, the statements aren't absolutes, because emotional damage is something, and I said this last night when I was teaching this class, is that it's something that all of us at some level or another has we have some form of emotional damage which has taken place within our lives. The degree by which that damage is based upon maybe the age we were when it happened, the level of traumatic experience that happened around us, and then were we given an opportunity to grow and to learn from it, and not only as much learn from it, but were we able to in a place that we could actually heal from it at some point. Because the traumatic experience, what it did was it ingrained certain patterns in our mind. So one of the things that happens when we go through a lot of traumatic experiences, especially when we can't trust the people that we're birthed by, or that's our father. So in other words, our parents. If we can't trust one of them, then what it does a lot of times with many of us is it puts us in a position where we go through life not being able to trust other people because of our experience. Because a lot of our experiences, and this is stuff that can be backed up by studies, is that by the time they say most children are 7 years old, they pretty much, based upon their environment and their subconscious mind, they've created a lot of the patterns and a lot of the thought processes whereby they're going to navigate their life. And I often say that when you think about a child making a decision at a 5, 8, 9. How wise is a child usually at that age where they can make intelligent decisions? And that's kind of where my mindset comes from. And that's part of what gives me a level of even more mercy and respect and kindness towards people that are in those situations, that grew up in situations like that. Because when you've grown up in a situation like that, you had to grow up quicker. So you had to find little tools to be able to navigate in society and in the world. So the first thing, like I said, it's going to affect our trusting. And our trusting is going to affect our lives and the things that we do in our lives. One of the things that I mentioned before, and I even mentioned it last night, is that when we have trust wounds, it's going to represent that we are afraid to be hurt. But most people are afraid to be hurt. If we're going to be honest, time will bring growth. Thank you, Christina. Yeah, time will bring growth. But it's going to, with trust wounds, it's the type of thing where it said, the definition that the author wrote is that it represents a person is afraid to be hurt. We're all afraid to be hurt at some degree or another. Look at a lot of the advice that's being given in society, and a lot of that advice is predicated upon people not wanting to be hurt. None of us want to be hurt, because we understand the pain behind giving ourselves and trusting another person and believing that they're going to be, someone that's going to be compassionate with our heart, and they're going to have a level of understanding, and they're going to do the things it takes to not just take our heart for granted, but they're going to take gentle care of our hearts. And then the second thing is, a lot of times when we can't trust other people, it's partially because there's a lack of trust within ourselves. Because that's part of where our spirituality and that understanding, that internal voice and our discernment and that intuition is critical. Because when I can really trust what I'm feeling in my body, not suspicion, but when I know what I'm feeling in my body, because yes, all of us, if you've been through a relationship and someone has been unfaithful, you're going to be suspicious about certain behaviors and things that you see. But the point I'm making is that it's about growing beyond that, growing to the place where, because a lot of times if we're in a relationship with a person and we're constantly accusing them of things and we're constantly, oh, you're cheating, then what it does, it brings a lot of tension in the relationship, especially if the person isn't doing anything. It's one thing if the person has shown a track record of doing things that are unfaithful, but then to me, my mindset says you should eliminate yourself from that, because that is not a healthy environment or a healthy relationship. And so this is a process. This isn't something that, and I started this with, this isn't something that any of us can point the finger at another person and say that we're better off than someone else. This is a sliding scale, which is often what I say to individuals when I'm coaching them, is that all of us are on a sliding scale. You might be at 0, I might be at 5, somebody else might be at 8. It doesn't matter where we are. The point is we can get started and we can start changing and doing the things it's going to take to change our lives. The third thing is that, when you're in the energy of not trusting people or any energy of anything, because of our belief biases. So what that means is, if you're a person that's highly political and you believe certain things that the Republicans teach or the Democrats or the Independents teach, then everything around you is going to give you more confirmation as to the beliefs of what you already believe. Belief bias. You're going to believe what you already believe based upon getting more feedback from your environment, based upon your thoughts, based upon your emotion. Because you feel it with your heart and you believe it with your mind, so you're going to get more manifestation of it. Your timeline is going to look like that. Your FYP is going to look like that. Everywhere you go, the beliefs that you have are going to predicate and keep feeding that. So if you believe that there's no good people out here and you can't find anybody and this, that, and the other, and this is why I often tell people, because people always ask me about dating. And I'm telling them all the time, I said, it's the people, when you're in the energy of not really caring and you've given up and you've released certain things, when you're at the place of not having an expectation or needing a certain outcome. So that means, like when you look at a biblical example, when we have that true faith as a grain of a mustard seed, when we have the faith to believe beyond what we see, when we have the faith, and like that other verse that says, therefore, when we're justified by faith, we have peace. When you have true faith, I'm not talking about thinking we have faith or hoping. When you have true faith, it brings a level of peace. And when that peace comes, we're no longer stressing out about how we're going to find this or how we're going to get a job and how we're going to meet a person and any of these other things, because we believe that our steps are part of the order. Our steps are ordered, and the things that are working for our benefit. So if something doesn't work out, that doesn't mean that person's bad or it means that it maybe it wasn't the right time, or maybe it just wasn't supposed to work out. And that's a true statement, Christina, because when we are a child, and that's kind of what I kind of alluded to that a little bit, is that because our minds aren't fully developed, we're not in a position to be able to make a rational, intelligent decision. And even as an adult, trauma does things to people that traumatic experiences change. It changes people forever if they're not careful. Sometimes for the better, and sometimes for the worse. And so imagine in a child's mind, which their mind is so easy to shape and to mold, because they're so susceptible to us and to their environment. The second thing is, part of what happens naturally is that when we're in the place of not trusting, because we're not trusting ourselves and then not trusting in general, then it leads to low self-esteem, where we don't really believe in ourselves, or we got to work extra hard to put a level of belief in ourselves. I often say self-esteem represents the way that you see yourself. How do you see yourself? Your self-image is not based upon what Mary, James, John, or anybody else thinks or says. Your self-image is based upon you. How do you see yourself? Are you a confident person without someone else, or do you need a lot of external validation? Because you're going to meet certain people in society, because of them not truly being confident, they're going to need a lot of reassuring. And a lot of that reassuring is as a result of, and I'm talking about people that are in the behavior of that narcissistic behavior. They present themselves as, oh, I'm so confident. But when you actually meet the person and you actually really get to know them, you'll see a lot of pop-ups. I call them pop-ups, where you'll see behavior which will show you that this person down underneath isn't truly a confident person. Confident people don't need a lot of reassurance from other people. They stand on what they believe. They know who they are because they've spent enough time alone. This is why time alone is critical, because it gives us a chance to actually get to know ourselves again. Because we've been through so many events, it takes some time to refresh ourselves, to cleanse our palate, so to speak, and get to a place of, just recognizing who we are and the things that we want and the things that we need for our lives, and that's true. That's true. That's part of the process, Christina, of release also. A lot of the things, and I would suggest anybody, because Christina wrote a comment in the chat. She said, exactly, we will carry guilt and responsibility for things we shouldn't because we were young and didn't have discernment yet, which is absolutely true. That's why we can, and sometimes it's easier said than done. We can't take on the responsibility of what the people that were put over us as stewards were supposed to do. But what we can do is, from this day forward, we can start finding certain techniques that are going to work for us. One thing that I suggest to anybody is that you want to start writing yourself letters concerning the events that took place at that time. You want to write those letters from the place of, and I mentioned, I might have mentioned this on a live a while back, is that in the form of as much as you can remember at that time, and then write another letter in the time that you are right now, at the age that you are right now. And write it and tell how you felt and what were your experiences and what were the expectations and what were the things that, what was your understanding at that level when those things happen, whatever they are, if you can remember them. But if you sit quiet in a quiet space and ask yourself, because our minds are so powerful, if we ask ourselves, if we send a message to our minds, we're going to get a response. We're going to get an answer as to what we should do and shouldn't do. And so part of that, the second part of that is, you want to write a letter after you write the first letter. You want to write another letter today of what are the things that you're seeing and how that's maybe affecting your life. And the thing is, what are the things that you can do? Because the thing is, what I found is a lot of the answers that I get are directly connected to the questions that I ask. If I'm in a position where I'm struggling with money, or if I'm struggling with something, I don't say, oh, I can't, I'm not making no M, I don't have any M, or I can't do any this or that. I say, what is the easiest and most effective way for me to make a substantial amount of money? I'll ask a question, something like that. What is the easiest and most effective way for me to make a substantial amount of money? Because when we ask ourselves questions in those forms, our mind is required to go find us an answer. But the problem is, if we're not conscious of that, then we say statements which are direct opposite of maybe something like I just said. And I just use that statement as an example. But whatever question you ask, you want to ask a question in the form of something that's easy and effective and that you can do. Something that is easy and effective that you can do right now that's getting you the result. That's the basis of the question that you're asking. What can I do right now, easy and effective, that I can get the result that I want? and you'll get the answer. That's how I was given the answer to write the book. I was given the answer to start the Shopify. I was given the answer to go on these lives and do these certain things because I want to build up this page based upon being led to go in this direction. So the second thing is low self-esteem. A lot of times it rolls over into low self-esteem. And the third thing, because I don't want to be too long on this video, but I appreciate everybody that's tuned in. Thank y'all for the taps, the shares, the likes. Thank y'all for being here. And the third thing is that it represents what will happen for many of us is there's a level of emotional numbness that takes place, which won't allow us to truly open up to people, and we won't be able to love in our relationships. Because when you've come from a place where you couldn't trust the person that you from birth should have been able to trust, many times what happens is it affects our esteem of ourselves, and sometimes it affects us to the point that we don't feel like we deserve certain things. But I'm here to tell anybody that watches this video, you deserve love. You deserve to meet a good person that's going to love you, that's going to take care of you, that's going to cherish you, that's going to treat you like the king or the queen that you are and that you need. And when you're ready for those things, those things will, they're going to manifest in your life. It's not impossible. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter what everybody else is saying about if you got kids. None of that stuff matters, because this is a spiritual thing that manifests in the physical reality. This thing, it's do you believe it? This is where we have to come from. And part of getting to a place of belief is us working on our mindset, working on our thoughts, working on and doing the things that we can do, the things that we have control over. This isn't about anybody else. This is about us, our lives. This is why when I talk about healing, and I say this often lately, is that your healing is it's selfish. It's selfish, but it's your responsibility, because it's your responsibility of you taking care of yourself. You figuring out things that you need to do which are beneficial for you, whether they're boundaries, whether they're, whatever it is. You understanding enough about yourself to know the things that you can allow or you will allow and the things that you won't allow. Because as we start taking back control of ourselves, as we start maybe working out a little bit, as we start doing a little bit of journaling, as we start doing some things like doing some prayers and some meditations, getting out into nature, eating some cleaner food, eating more fruits and vegetables, getting in a place where we're allowing all of the cloudiness to be removed from our mind, allowing ourselves to get to a place where we can heal our nervous system. Because, one of my biggest issues was when I first went through my process was intellectually, around the year point, I was intellectually, based upon my intelligence, I was intellectually healed. So intellectually, I thought I was healed. My coach would tell me all the time, she said, no, she said, no, Arnold, you're not. She said, I'm not saying this to discourage you. She said, but you got to spend a lot more time on your heart. And I didn't understand what she meant until I started doing it. And part of spending time on your heart is it was a lot of prayers and a lot of meditation, and a lot of that stuff is you're pouring out your heart and you're crying out and you're rendering your heart, like it talks about even from a biblical place. Because a lot of the pain from the emotional part, because we're talking about emotional damage, the emotional part of the damage is in your heart. The emotional part of the damage that needs to heal is our hearts. That's why you have to cry. People don't want to cry. I even tell this to men, and that has nothing to do with your masculinity. You need to pour out your heart, because it's part of the way that the Creator made us is to release certain things out of our lives. Because if we don't release it, then we're going to carry a bunch of sickness and disease in our body. So it's either make the decision to release it or decide to carry a disease. It's real easy choice. Real easy choice. Release it or carry it as a disease and a sickness. I say just cry it out, write it out. When at some point, because I was still kickboxing, punch it out, kick it out, do whatever you need to do to get yourself to a place of relief, because it's about getting better. And in closing, again, my name is Arnold Austin. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Thank you, Christina. Thank you for your comments. And I just got on here. That's kind of crazy that you're on here, but I appreciate you showing up. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. I appreciate the taps, the likes, the shares, the notification button, and all the other good stuff. And like I always say, I believe in you, but you gotta believe in yourself. And talk to you soon. Christina, happy birthday. If I don't see you tomorrow, I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right, guys. See you soon.